So I think a lot of people have seen the Jujutsu Kaisen fighting game trailer. I think that's great. I mean, I love Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I don't, but I kind of want to rant when it comes to the idea of animes getting developed into a fighting game or picked up for a fighting game, because there's a trend, and I'm sure everybody knows exactly what I'm about to talk about the second I start with this little prelude here. But there's a big trend with every single anime fighting game that has came out like in the past 10 years. And I'm sure it started with Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi, which everybody fucking loves Tenkaichi, and Tenkaichi was one of the first big name anime video games out there. Back then, you had shit like the Yu Yu Hakusho game on PlayStation 1. You had probably like a Naruto game back then that wasn't really popular. There's a lot of games back then that just didn't really hit. You know what I mean? But when Budokai Tenkaichi like stepped up, it had every character on it. You can literally play almost any and every character. Everybody fucking loved it and everybody played it down to the point where it's still a classic to this day. And then Naruto decided to have their own Budokai Tenkaichi moment, which is fine, it's cool. I think everybody also collectively likes Ninja Storm because they actually handled that game well, except for like right now because the new Ninja Storm game that came out was like Shinobi Chronicles or some shit like that, and it's just all they did was add like 3 or 4 or 5 new characters, and that was it. And then they just moved on. Okay, cool. But the thing that all these games have in common is the fact that they are every single one of them are straight up arena fighters. The original J Stars was an arena fighter. The failed game Jump Force, which was bad, but in all honesty, not that bad. It was terrible. It had good concepts. But that game, Jump Force, was an arena fighter. The One Punch Man game that everybody immediately forgot about because, Saitama's in it and he literally kills everything in one hit. So him being in the game kind of killed it a little bit. Like, okay, cool. That game was a bit of a pseudo arena fighter, I would say. It might have been more 3D, but no, it was also like heavily arena fighter esque. The My Hero Academia game, which I only played recently at my brother's place, honestly, Mirio in that game is completely fucking broken, but he's actually very fun to play. That's like the only fun thing to do in that game. That's an arena fighter, but literally nobody is talking about it because it's just not a good game. And just nobody really cares about My Hero Academia anymore, which I think is an amazing thing. But that's besides the point. Demon Slayer, which is a great anime, and season 3 just finished, and it was phenomenal, right? Everybody loves Demon Slayer, but do you see people talking about their arena fighter game that came out? Do you see people still playing it? No. I mean, like season when season 2 was finished, they added Tengen and Daki and Gyotaro, but do you see people playing them and see people going back and making videos on them? No, you don't, because these arena fighters are all cookie cutter and aren't really all that good. Let's be honest here. Nobody's playing these games solely because they're not fun to play. Straight up, there's nothing interesting. There's nothing fun. There's nothing cool. There's nothing technical. There's nothing good about these animes becoming arena fighters. And then One Piece Burning Blood also was an arena fighter, kind of sort of arena fighter, and that one was pretty decent. It had a pretty decent concept of what it wanted to be. You had characters like Buggy who were stronger against characters like Mihawk. You have Logia characters who have a meter of how much of a Logia they can be. It was cool. It was great. They could have expanded upon it a little bit more because, to my memory, because I really didn't play that game all that much, the only thing that they had to go for it was not to go for it, but the only thing they had story wise and what they shown was nothing but the Paramount War. I think that's what it's called. The arc where, spoilers of course for whoever needs to hear it, where Luffy is now from Impel Down and Whitebeard is attacking Marineford or whatever it's called. That war to save Ace. He still dies. And you know what? Since I'm talking about how these arena fighters are doing nothing new, they're just constantly doing like the same thing over and over and over again. Let me go more into depth about the games that I talked about previously. So let's jump back one game and go back to Demon Slayer. In Demon Slayer, you just use the moves that you see in the anime. So every move, every singular move that Zenitsu does, he does in the anime, he does in the game as well. Which is like, that's fine, that's cool. That's kind of what you expect. But holy shit, do they give everybody else like a metric fuck ton of moves that you literally see in the game, in the anime, like once. And it's sorry to say that majority of these games play as if they're Ninja Storm, which they shouldn't try to be Ninja Storm. They should just try to be like their own game. So in this one, all you got to do is tilt your analog up or down and press triangle, and that's you essentially doing your Rasengan. And of course, they do have the demons in the game, Demon Slayer, whatever. But if you want to play, if you pick a Demon Slayer against the demon, then you're really going to be acting as if you are the Demon Slayer, solely because every demon in the game is a zoner, meaning that they have projectiles that they throw out, and it's sometimes extremely hard to dodge against. Of course, it depends on your skill, but just for the sake of the conversation or whatever, extremely hard to dodge against or whatever. Who cares? But it's all good because you have assists in the game, which means that if they're constantly hitting you with spider webs or red glowing green arrows, they're not green arrows, but red arrows that they just shoot out of their palms of their hands, or like little pellets that make you fall asleep. Oh, that's that. Oh, you're good. Just call in your other Demon Slayer friend to get you out of the trouble, which is literally what you do in Ninja Storm, but okay. And also, the demons don't get assists because they all fight alone. Not once did any demon like actually fight with one another. Daki and Gyotaro didn't do that like at all. The guy with the arrows in hands and the uh, Tamari ball chick, yeah, no, they never fought together. So having them have like teams or whatever, no, that's just dumb. As a matter of fact, My Hero Academia game played literally exactly like the Demon Slayer game when it comes to doing your moves. When I played Miria against my brother, I just held down triangle, which is literally how you do a move in fucking Demon Slayer, Hinokami Chronicles. It's just so stupid. It literally leaves like no room for you to actually sit down and play the game and or even learn the game because there's literally nothing for you to learn. It's ridiculous and it's stupid. Let's look at another Dragon Ball Z game that has a lot more love for it and people are still playing, and I keep seeing videos recommended to me right now about it. And that is straight up Dragon Ball Fighters or Dragon Ball Fighter Z, whichever one you want to pronounce it. That game is still getting played. That game is still getting talked about. That game is still in like tournaments nowadays. You don't really see anybody holding tournaments for the My Hero Academia game, the Demon Slayer game, or any other game that tries to be a Ninja Storm or Tenkaichi. It's ridiculous. That game has actual buttons, actual combos that you can do. Not every character does the same thing. Of course, maybe the same input, but every character does something completely different that you have to look out for. You have to learn. You get three characters, and it plays a little bit like a Marvel versus Capcom. It's fun. It's interesting, and you don't have to. It's a game you have to not turn your brain off for, which a lot of people can appreciate a lot more because if you turn your brain off while playing a game, you're not going to be thinking about the game. You're just going to be going through the motions. Like literally, that's all what it is. They need to stop making these games play the same, look the same, act the same, and behave the same. And last little point here for these last 2 minutes of this video, they're doing this to take your money, like straight up. Fighting games already has a problem when it comes to like just doing things poorly when it comes to the characters that they add or the stages that they might have. In case in point, look at something like Street Fighter V and Street Fighter VI. Street Fighter V was really egregious. There were expansions to characters or expansions to the game that shows you all the characters that you could get. And it's like the original game started off with like 8 characters. There was like 32 characters added 5 years later, like consistently throughout. So they're just doing that to take your money as well. Because if you look at Ninja Storm, they have 5 of them, and they have a new one that came out recently. And what you do with these, they have like no characters, right? In the beginning, there wasn't that many characters on the first Ninja Storm roster. Yet they constantly made more of the Ninja Storm games, and they decided to add more and more characters. People will look at that and be like, "Oh, wait, now I can play as like Naruto when he unlocked his Sage mode, or Sasuke when he learned Amaterasu." That guy kind of ran out. I'm not that big of a Naruto fan. I'm sorry. Especially considering the fact that with the Demon Slayer game, I take a shot every time I say Demon Slayer for the love of fuck. They have they didn't like they didn't go through the manga. The last Hashira that was added was Tengen. We've met two more Hashira, or at least know more about two more Hashira now in the anime. So what are they gonna do? They're gonna have more DLC characters, or they're just gonna release an entirely new fucking game. You know? Oh, don't get me wrong. You have Tanjiro, who knows the Hinokami breathing style, right? But then you also have to have Zenitsu. When Zenitsu unlocks his spoiler, when Zenitsu unlocks his own form of lightning breathing or thunder breathing or whatever, and then you have the point where they're gonna have to add in the Naruto style power ups when they lose their health to unlock their demon marks in order to get them to be like even stronger. So they're gonna have to add all that into the game, right? So they're gonna have you play not play but pay another whole $60 for a brand new game that they could have just added to the base game. Yeah, I think Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 was egregious. Let me tell you, this time you're gonna be paying for it. And look, JJK is not an anime or manga that I haven't really looked into the future for. Looking into the future, when I say that, means that, oh, I'm not a manga reader, but I'm gonna look and see like what happens in the story or whatever in the manga. I haven't done that. So me saying that a lot of these characters are going to be added, most likely they are. There's so many characters that I'm pretty sure that they've actually shown that will be in the manga. A lot of characters have been revealed in the manga that they are not gonna like have in the game, in the base game, solely because, well, they're not adapted yet, and that's how they like keep their own like relevancy up. Did that work for the other game that I mentioned previous? So I'm not saying it again. You know, the one that starts with a D, ends with the Emon, and word around with Ayer. I'm sure the game is gonna be fun for like a week or two, and I'm most definitely still gonna buy it, and I'm most definitely still gonna play the ever loving shit out of it for those 2 weeks that it's popular and relevant, and it's gonna stay in my mind for that long. After that, though, I don't see this game lasting all that long, honestly. At least not in a YouTuber style way, or just people still talking about it, even on Twitter or whatever. It's just not one of those games that I think people can get invested in enough to like actually have it be a long-standing game, or even remotely similar in popularity to like Ninja Storm or Budokai Tenkaichi. If you listened to this entire rant, I thank you. Surprised that you made it this far, and if you did make it this far, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. I'm really trying to grow. I'm really very small right now. Thank you, and have a great day.